Welcome back to Dave's Gone By, and Dave's got guests. In fact, well, a guest, and very proud and happy to have our special guest on this episode, which is called Little House on the Radio, because the guest that I have laughing very quietly in the background, well, she's one of the more famous moms on TV over the past couple of decades. I got an email from one of the listeners who knew that our guest was coming on the program, and she said, "I am so jealous." This is from Joy of Great Neck. She's so jealous because I'm interviewing Mrs. Ingalls, who is on my top 3 list of television mothers that I wish I had. She wishes she had Elise Keaton of Family Ties, Maggie Seaver on Growing Pains, and, of course, these are her words, and, of course, Caroline Ingalls of Little House on the Prairie. And so, we do have her for this segment. Very happy to welcome Karen Grassle to Dave's Gone By. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Dave.
How are you?
Well, I'm just fine.
You're in New York, which is great. Where do you normally live these days?
Normally is a good question. I live in Southern California in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have been very much a gypsy for the past almost 9 months, and that's because I was at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for 6 months last year, and since that season closed, I've been in Northern California, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, New York, Hawaii, Los Angeles, and here I am in New York again. And
it's since the OSF, it's basically been promoting Little House, or have you been doing more regional theater and stuff
Well,
like
I've just been all over the map with different things. Some of it has been for the new DVDs that are out of Little House, and some of it has been strictly pleasure.
Okay, hey, Hawaii. Which one was Hawaii?
That was pleasure.
I figured, yeah, okay. So, all right, why don't we start then with the basic push, the reason that you're doing some of this traveling and some of this promoting.
Yes.
There is a DVD or several DVDs out now of the seasons of Little House. I think it's the first 4 complete entire seasons.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the first 3 seasons.
Oh, oops.
And the 4th season will be out in February in time for my birthday.
When is your birthday, by the way?
The 25th.
February. Make a note of it, everybody. Send your presents to Karen wherever she happens to be that week.
Please.
And the present that maybe you wouldn't send Karen, but the present that you would send each other for your birthdays are these DVD series. They're I do have a packet of one of them. It's very nicely done. There's 6,
isn't it?
6 DVDs in a set, and it looks like a little book almost, almost like a children's book.
It takes up very little shelf space. You know, these videotapes were so cumbersome, and these DVDs are great because it takes up less space for a whole season than it took up for 2 hours.
And do they have extra stuff on them?
You know, they don't have the extra stuff, but I do know that some of the specials are available, like the pilot and the, they have extra photos, still photos.
Okay.
But they are thinking about whether to put on some extra stuff for the ones that are to come out in the future. So I guess it would be good to hear from people if that's something they would enjoy.
Well, I mean, I can almost assume that it's something that they would, but sure, people should. What is the company? Is Imavision or Imavision?
Yes, and that's a very good company out of Montreal, and I've been working with them on this, and it's a privilege because, this is our 30th anniversary of Little House on the Prairie, and I can still be very proud of this product. It stands up.
Let's go back. Let's think in terms, because people basically know you as this character, Carolyn Ingalls, and we will certainly get to that. In fact, half the questions I'm going to ask towards the end of this segment will be from that reader in Great Neck, because she was such a big fan and has all these questions that I don't even, aren't even in my consciousness. But before that, let's go back to Karen Grassle when she was first coming into her own as an actress, as a performer. Now, you graduated from UC Berkeley,
Yes.
and then you had a Fulbright scholarship, in fact.
Yes.
And then, was it acting all the way, or was something else?
No, it was acting all the way. I had a Fulbright to London to study acting. I came back and got my equity card and did my first season here in the States at a resident theater in Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow, is it still there? I didn't know there were any theaters in Tennessee at this point. Yeah.
No, it isn't. I think there is another theater there, though, now. And then I came to New York City to try my fortune, and it was very trying. I did land a couple of good jobs right away, but then I had one of those dry spells where you wonder if you'll ever work again. And then I did have some nice work here on Broadway and for Shakespeare in the Park, and I did then go back to London to teach some voice work, and I joined a Shakespeare company over there, and I was doing Shakespeare, came back to this country, and it was about that time that somebody offered me a film in Los Angeles, and I went out there, and the film fell through, but I was there, so I did get seen for Little House on the Prairie, and that is how it all got going.
And, okay, here's a question, and this did not come from our friend in Great Neck, but I hope it doesn't stun you with this. Who is Kay Dillinger?
Kay Dillinger.
Kay Dillinger and Gabriel Tree.
Oh.
Who are these people?
Those were names that I thought up, that I should change my name, because before I got Little House on the Prairie, I had done so many jobs, and I had what I thought were some good opportunities, but I still didn't have what I could call a career. And I had spent all my savings while I was working with this Shakespeare group in England, and I thought, well, maybe what I need is a new persona. If I change my name and make up a story about who I am, then maybe I'll become a big success. So I was toying with those two names. Kay Dillinger I chose because of the gangster Dillinger.
Right.
And I thought that will make me tough, and I'll be able to stand all the rejections.
Wow.
Yeah.
And why, a relatively male-ish name? It worked for Michael Learned, I guess, but no, why Gabriel Tree?
Well, Gabrielle is the feminine of Gabriel,
mm-hmm.
and Gabriel, of course, is a very blessed name. It's an angel's name. And then Tree is the name of a very distinguished old family. So,
or Herbert Beerbaum Tree, yeah.
There you go.
Right.
So I thought if I had the name of a very distinguished, old, moneyed family, then that would give me some kind of protection in this tough world.
But these names did not last, of course, and someone convinced you to stay and go back to Grassle, and there was no problem.
Right, and my father, Gene Grassle, was very grateful that I didn't change my name. He would have been very disappointed. My parents had been really very supportive of my efforts in the theater and had traveled many miles to see me perform in lots of different venues. And so it would have been kind of tough on them if I hadn't been Karen Grassle when I finally got a job that everybody recognized. Everybody said, well, now you've made it.
Let me ask you, as you said, you did some Shakespeare in the Park. Any Joe Papp stories? Did you deal with him at all? Because he was a character.
Oh, yes, I did. Joe was wonderful to me.
Mm-hmm.
He was very encouraging to me. In fact, at one point he said, how's my favorite actress?
Oh.
And I almost fell off my chair. I was so flattered.
That's sweet. That is
very
very
sweet.
sweet.
Yeah, it was very nice.
So then, okay, I'm going to dance around Little House and save that still for a bit, and let's go to the end of that, which is, I guess, about 2 decades ago. And since then, you had the name, you had established yourself, and yet getting work in television and theater when you reach a certain age, as it were. Did you run into that wall that actresses run into at a certain point?
What are you talking about? After the series?
Yeah.
Well, after the series, the truth is that I really wanted to have my own family. And I was asked to do certain movies a week, and certain television series wanted me to come and meet them, and I said thank you, but no thank you. I really wanted to have the experience that I had been acting about for a long, long time. And my energy went into having a family at that point. So I think at that time, I think I had the second highest TVQ in the country.
A TVQ meaning that people had a recognizable and identifiable persona of you. Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of women. And I didn't really take advantage of that momentum, and go on to yet another show. I really felt like the wonderful thing about Little House was that it freed me economically, and I could make my own choices about what to do with my life and what to do with my career. So I really wanted this family, and I married, and I had 3 stepchildren, and my husband and I adopted a little girl baby, and this is my daughter that I've raised. And it's been extremely satisfying for me to be a parent. And so it was possible for me to do the odd job here and there, but I felt like after all I'd waited so long to be a parent, I didn't want to miss those years.
Right.
So then I did work in the theater.
Because that allowed you to do short-term things and to come back after like 3 months or 2 months even, Yeah.
So that basically, I was either able to be home with her in the afternoon or home with her in the evening.
And now that, I guess, I don't know how old your youngest is, the youngest adopted child, but I assume you're sort of out of the nest at this point. You're able to do...
Yes, she is out of the nest.
So are you now looking to do more steady? Are you looking to get back into the world of TV, or are you still very comfortable, not just, but doing theater and doing lectures and doing that kind of thing?
Well, I don't think of it as just, that's for sure.
Right.
I love the contact with the audience. I love doing very fine writers, whether they be Shakespeare or another classic writer, or whether it's a brand new writer. I've done a lot of original work, too. I was active at the Actors Theater of Louisville in the Humana Festival. And to me, it's just satisfying to do good work. And particularly for an actor, I think it's very gratifying to have that personal, physical connection with your audience.
Well, now I guess we will go back to Little House and the character that you established on that, and the fact that it is a very beloved series in its way, and yet during the later years, you did. It was pretty open that you had some difficulty with how little your character was allowed to do. Do you want to go into that at all?
Well, the guys that developed Little House and a lot of the writers for it did come out of Bonanza and the whole Western métier, and so they were oriented to a guy's point of view, and I was looking for this character to expand and to be more representative of the strong woman that she actually was. So sometimes I was very frustrated because, they'd give me more coffee, dear.
Right, yeah.
And I wanted to do more. They were very, very important creative years for me as an actress, and I there were a lot of parts going by while I was on the series.
Right.
What happened?
No, I think that's on your side, actually.
What?
that little musical thing. So, not sure what that was, but it was kind of cute, kind of sweet. Now, getting to some questions from Joy of Great Neck, who, as I said, is a huge fan of Little House. So don't blame me for these if you don't like them. But
okay.
Okay. Well, let's start with. Well, I mean, I think I can answer this one. But do you think it was a good plot move for the writers to have Mary, Laura's sister, go blind?
Oh, it wasn't a plot move. It was actually what happened to Mary, the character that the series is based on. These were all real people that lived in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And Laura really did write these books when she was an old lady, and Mary really did go blind.
Oh, okay.
And that was not a decision made by Hollywood producers. That was something that was known in advance, that would come about, just as it was known in advance that Miss Beadle would only do 3 seasons and then a new school teacher would come on.
Oh, okay. But when the show became popular, I guess I'll rework the question then, was there any pressure to not have the blindness angle from the higher-ups, from
not at
networks
all.
that didn't want to rock the boat or anything?
Not at all.
Cool.
In fact, that was a very beautiful episode when Mary lost her sight, and Melissa Sue Anderson was nominated for an Emmy for her work in it. So I think everybody was pretty happy about it.
Cool.
I mean, of course, it was terribly sad for the audience.
Well, yeah, but the actual writing and the issues being dealt with were important, and the acting rose to meet it.
Yes, things do happen, I mean, people do get illnesses or develop handicaps, and then people have to deal with them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at South Park. Kenny dies in every episode. So, but how about also where the outside, the media world impedes upon the actual production world? So,
I'm sorry, can you phrase that again?
Yeah, in other words, like one of the things our listener brings up is that perhaps was there a problem when Michael Landon, who was identified as this very wholesome Charles Ingalls, he had that whole marriage thing and he married a much younger woman. I mean, did outside stuff in any way impede or make or sour or soil the inner workings of your day-to-day, TV life?
Well, Michael was the creative person who made all final decisions on our show. And if Michael was affected, we were affected. It was, needless to say, extremely awkward when he was falling in love on the set, and we knew his wife. I mean, that was extremely awkward.
But you were still able to get around it and do what you had to do. Actually,
we were all professionals, even the children.
I would love to know, and this is just a question from me, and this is one of the ones I really wanted to ask, someone who was on an hour-long TV series, I guess you did 26 roughly episodes a year. For the course of a week, what was your life like?
You don't have a life.
Right. So
you have a series.
So let's say Sunday morning.
Unless you're doing a half-hour comedy, then their schedule is completely different. But this was 9 months out of the year, and I would say my own schedule, the first year was 5:30 or 6:30 a.m. until 6:30 p.m., except on Fridays when we worked late.
Wow.
And then that was 5 days a week. And then when we were on distant location, which we were 2 or 3 times a year, we worked 6 days a week. So basically, when I got home from work, there was basically just time to eat and sleep and get up and go to work again.
No, you didn't have to. Did you have to do any memorizing on your downtime, or at least?
Yeah, sure.
Even that would have to. You'd have to read scripts on the weekend. You wouldn't have.
Yeah, sure.
Oh wow.
Sure.
So it really was like an 80-hour-a-week job, or maybe even more.
Well, it was it was a lot of hours, especially the first couple of years, and especially for Mike and me, because Mike was directing about half the shows, and for me, the children had limited hours because they had to be in school, and they also had to go home earlier. So very often what would happen at the end of the day was that I would go back and do every scene over again, changing costume, changing hair, and play the scene then with the script supervisor for all my close-ups.
Wow.
So I might do all my close-ups, after 5 p.m. every day.
Which you did for year after... I mean, did you ever have burnout, not just from your
yeah.
character? Oh, you did. Okay.
The hours and the way that it's hard to take proper care of yourself because you're working that many hours. It's very hard to adjust. So I think some people are just, really tough workhorses, and it doesn't bother them. But a lot of people develop illnesses. A lot of marriages break up. Series life is tough on people. It's tough on people. It's tough on families. And one of the reasons people on the crew adored Michael was that it was a show that was wholesome. It was a family show, and they pretty much could count on going home at 6:30 at night, which was a lot better than any of the police shows, for example, where they were out on the streets until 2, 3 in the morning a lot of times.
And now let me take the question back. Even though you get that burnout and all the tensions that come in when you're doing this 6 days a week or 5 days a week for however many hours, have you kept in contact, I guess this is a typical question, with your colleagues? I mean, obviously not Michael Landon at this point, but...
Well, I lived out of state for about 10 years, and I had kind of lost touch with people. Occasionally, I would luck out, and someone like Gabs Greer would come to the town where I was living and shoot a movie or something, and I was able to introduce him to my little daughter, and Kevin Hagen, who played Doc Baker, and I were able to talk on the phone. And occasionally there would be a party or something, and I was able to reconnect with Catherine McGregor, who played Mrs. Olson, or Melissa,
Well, she's head of equity now, so you must be in some...
president of the Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, SAG, excuse me, yeah.
That's right, and I think it's absolutely marvelous of her to do this. I mean, it's something she didn't have to do.
Let me ask one more great neck question, I guess I'll call them. The series ended by characters in the series blowing up the town, including the church, the schoolhouse, the mercantile, etc., in order so that they wouldn't leave anything for the people who wanted to take it over. I assume her question is, did this feel like a kind of an odd way to end a somewhat gentle series like Little House? Or maybe that isn't what her implication is.
Well, I certainly felt uncomfortable with that ending. I thought it was a sad way to end it. I'm not quite sure why Michael decided to do that, but I have a theory. Mm-hmm. And my theory is that he had it with Little House on the Prairie, and that he wanted not to be tempted because he knew the network would come back and ask him for 1 or 2 specials every year. There was certainly an audience for it. There still would be today. And I think he wanted not to do that. And if the town wasn't there...
There's no real way.
Right. Yeah. Now, the Simi Valley fire has destroyed the little house and barn as well.
The real one, you mean? Or the one?
Yeah. So none of it is there.
Wow. Let me ask now just about, at the moment, as you said, you're pushing the Little House DVD, and we'll talk just a little more about that. But what are your other theater plans or your other plans over the next year or 2 or 3?
Well, I have a very peripatetic life now. It kind of depends what parts come up, and whether I'm free to do them. And so I don't know what my plans are, except that I have a play that I'm writing.
Ooh.
And I'm looking forward now, after several months of traveling, to get back and get settled and get back on a regular routine and turn out another draft of this play.
Do you want to talk about it yet, or
Not
are you
yet.
not comfortable with that?
Not yet. I'm still in process.
Well, let me ask, since I'm also a theater buff, or it could also be a film, but if you had your druthers at this point to play a particular role or famous character in theater or film, or who would it be?
Well, of course, with film you can't say because you never know what films are going to be made.
Well, no, but they remake every film also now anyway, so I open the question to include that. But you can also go with theater, if it were Shakespeare or Molière or whoever.
Yeah. Well, I'm very interested in us continuing to do some of the great classical roles in the theater, Chekhov and Shakespeare. And there are many other parts that interest me now that I've entered this new age range. I had an opportunity to do Daisy in Driving Miss Daisy a couple of years ago, and I would very much like to do that again within the next 10 years.
Well, funny, you don't look Jewish. No.
I have played a number of Jewish parts and enjoyed them thoroughly. For example, Shadowlands, I played the Jewish poet that falls in love with...
What's Stevens? Is it not Wallace Stevens?
No.
It's
No, gosh, isn't that funny? It's gone right out of my head.
But yeah, okay,
C.S.
but it's
Lewis.
Yeah. What would you say is the most fun you've ever had doing a play?
The most fun I've ever had doing a play?
Yeah.
Oh, I've had the most fun doing a number of plays, and one of them was Wit. That was about 3 years ago.
That was fun?
That was so much fun, and I'll tell you why. The character, although she is receiving the most extreme treatment for her stage 4 ovarian cancer and is going through hell, has a very brilliant mind and a very ironic take on her circumstances, and gets to stand right downstage and tell the audience how she feels about it and what she thinks about it. And the relationship with the audience in that is phenomenal. And the emotional journey from a person who is determined to get well to a person who needs nobody, to a person who has to accept her humanity and accept her frailty and give herself up to the natural biological end. It's a very beautiful journey.
Did you, I have to ask, did you shave your head?
I certainly did.
Wow.
I had a shaved head for about 5 or 6 months.
Was that odd for you? In other words, to change, because I'm not asking that as a silly question, but as an actress and someone who has a certain persona and is very concentrated on a particular look. And
well,
especially,
it was fun, because I had this same look for so long. And this was a way I felt it was almost a spiritual thing for me to rid myself of these blonde locks, and then to say to myself, well, what's going to grow out? I don't even know what color my hair is anymore.
Wow.
And so my hair has grown out gray. It's a kind of silver and dark silver gray.
Mm-hmm.
And I wear it short now, and I feel like it just catapulted me into a new phase of my life. They say, if you want to make a big change in your life, then the easiest way to do that is to start by changing your hair radically.
And that really apparently does something. That's
Yeah, and the freedom that I feel with this hair is just amazing.
I don't know. I've been going bald slowly for 10 years. It hasn't done a darn thing for me.
That's probably too slow. You got to just go ahead and shave it all off, and then see, how you feel about that.
Great advice from Ma Ingalls, of all people.
That's my beauty secret.
Before I forget, I do always got to ask this kind of question, but after all those years, 8 years on the set, dealing with all those people, one or two of the funniest blooper, oopsie kind of, hilarious, bizarre moments.
Yeah. Michael was very, very quick with these moments at the end of a scene where we would have played a very somber scene, and let's say the baby is sick, and he's holding a pretend baby, and it's wrapped, in a blanket and so on. And then at the moment that the director calls cut, he'd throw the baby and say, whoops.
Oh, my goodness. And of course, people would have been, completely shocked. That's pretty wonderful, actually.
Everybody would just howl with laughter.
Any other moments or odd, bizarre happenings?
Well, of course, there were a lot of them, but one of my favorites is when Melissa and Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie, had to be in the river, and it was a very cold river. And so they had the girls in these wetsuits, and then they had their little calico dresses over their wetsuits, and they were about 10 years old, maybe.
Yeah. And
they put them in the river, and as soon as they were in the river, they needed to go to the bathroom. And they sort of raised their hands and said, hey, we need to go to the bathroom. Well, to take them out of the river, dry them off, take them up by car to the trailers. This is on distant location.
Right.
Let them use the bathroom, put them back in the wetsuits, put them back in the calico dresses.
By the time they got back into the river, they'd have to,
so much time would have been lost, that the shooting schedule for the day would have been blown. Not to mention there were 100 people standing around to do their jobs who would be kept waiting in the cold while these girls went up to do their business. So they said, hang on, girls, we'll get the shot, and then you can go. So they're standing there, and they're just freezing, and they just need to pee so bad.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Allison smiles.
Oh, no.
And Melissa looks at her and says, you're smiling. And she said, it's warm.
See, this is exactly the kind of thing they should put on the trailer reel of the DVD.
I know.
It would be a marvelous, marvelous moment.
It would be.
Let's push that again, by the way. It's Imavision. Is it Imavision or Imavision? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
I think it's Imavision.
I-M as in Mary, AVISION.com, where people can find out how to get the first 3 at the moment, 3 full seasons of Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
And then the 4th is coming out in February. Yeah. I've got Karen Grassle on the phone. I just want to ask one more little question. You've been so great. I mean, we've run overtime. I hope you don't mind. I think it's just been so much fun.
Oh, no, thank you.
Talking to you. But got to ask the other question. I don't know if it's the episode that you mentioned before, which you said was very beautiful, but if you had to pick a favorite episode of all the ones that you guys did, it would be...
The pilot.
No kidding. Why is that?
Oh, there was just something so thrilling about beginning this journey. The family was taking a journey into the unknown, and we were all taking a journey into the unknown, and we were all getting to know each other while we were getting to know the characters. And there was something very, very sweet about that. It was a very small group, it was just the family and Mr. Edwards. Mm-hmm. And the occasional Native American, I mean, it was a very small, tight group. And I guess we bonded during that time. And everybody pulled together so beautifully, and it was just a very special experience.
Well, everybody can share that special experience over and over and over again on your DVD players by getting the Imavision, Imavision. We're all a vision, I guess.
I think it's really a very nice quality that they've done on this, and I think people will be pleased. And I know for myself, if I had kids at home now, Or if I were a longtime fan, what I would like is that I could watch it whenever I felt like it. I wouldn't be tied to any schedule, you know.
And it would only be about 52 minutes an episode because there's no commercials. So that's also kind of
That's
neat
right.
as well. Well, Karen Grassle, I want to thank you very, very much for appearing on Dave's Gone By. I want to wish you best of luck, both with the coming out of all the different seasons. I assume there will be more to follow as the months progress, and with all the theater work that you're going to be doing, and with everything you're going to do. So,
thank you.
Once again, thank you so much.
Thanks.